With the Asheville Tourists and every single-A pro baseball team, highly drafted players share the field and clubhouse with free agents, all trying to earn the attention of scouts and managers 3 levels higher. The same goes for the Tourists' coaches and manager, who every game put into place plans laid out by the parent club, the Houston Astros.
The most important thing that we're doing is we're developing guys to become big leaguers. So, whatever it's going to take to help them win at the major league level, we have to keep that at the forefront of what we're doing. We need to make sure that they can go to the big leagues, have success, go through the things that they go through in the big leagues, and win baseball games and win World Series.
I'm Matt Peiken, and this is The Overlook, a daily podcast about the news, arts, issues, and trends of Asheville, North Carolina. My guest today is Tourist manager Nate Shaver, who's been with the team since 2018. I can't verify this, but he's likely among the few PhD holders managing a pro baseball team. We talk about Shaver's path from aspirations on the field to aspirations in the dugout. He details the day-to-day role of managers at his level, the dictates he follows from personnel directors with the Houston Astros, and how he and his coaching colleagues look to support their players in ways that aren't necessarily reflected in their statistics. If you've spent any time on Tinder or Bumble, you know this scenario. You're on a blind date and it goes horribly wrong. I mean, horribly in a way you just can't get out of. That's the premise of Some Notes on Dating During Outbreak, a new stage play from Asheville playwright Travis Lowe, premiering through the Sublime Theater. It's got a fancy restaurant, 2 hopeful people, and an entrapment by quarantine. What more could you ask for? Some Notes on Dating During Outbreak opens July 13th and runs 9 performances at the BB Theater in downtown Asheville. For tickets and information, go to thesublimetheater.org. Nate Shaver was a multi-sport athlete while growing up in the Columbia River Gorge region of Oregon, and he played baseball at New Mexico State University. We began our conversation by talking about his dreams upon leaving college.
I did have aspirations of playing professional baseball. I was an older senior, and if you're older and if you're running out of time once you get so old.
What's so old in terms of professional baseball life?
So throughout college, you have a clock, they call it, right? And if your clock runs out in college, you become less desirable to a professional organization because if you're older, they may think you may not develop as much. If you're younger, they can sign you at an earlier age and you may develop within their organization professionally. And this isn't for all organizations, definitely not. But for some, it's okay. We want to try to sign this kid early and see how he develops within our org. And then if you're older, they're like, okay, maybe this guy's window's kind of slowing down a little bit. And
so you were older.
Yeah, I was a 23-year-old senior.
God, wow. That doesn't seem like old, does it?
Yeah, you're 5 years into college, though. So it's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So you're an older guy.
So tell me what happened to you as a 23-year-old graduating senior from New Mexico State. What happened to you from there?
I didn't get drafted. I thought I might get drafted late rounds, mid-20s, and I didn't. I called some of the scouts that I'd talked to, and I'm like, man, what's up? Can you sign me as a free agent, or what do you got going? They're like, yeah, if a roster opens up, maybe, but didn't sign with the affiliate organization, and then ended up signing with the independent team and played with that organization for about a month, and then got injured and got released, and that was it.
Wow.
And then you're done.
Was what independent team?
It was the Joliet Slammers in
Joliet, Illinois.
Yeah.
So 1 month you got injured, and that was it.
Was it.
What did that do to you psychologically, or were you already prepared? Had you thought, I'm going to probably make my living doing something else. I'm just going to give baseball a whack.
It's tough. It's tough to go through just because you've done something for. Anytime you do something for a long time and you invest your time and you create a routine and you have plans, and as long as you're realistic with those plans and you do everything you possibly can in your power to pursue that, and you come away at the end of the day and you're like, I did what I absolutely everything I could, then you can move on and go where you need to go and do what you need to do. So that's where I was.
Yeah.
So once that went down, it takes a little bit of time to figure out what's going to happen next, but
Tell me about that time, because that seems like a critical period in any young person's life.
For sure.
When they go to college, they major in something and they decide, I don't want to do that as a career. Early 20s are all about finding yourself and finding your path. What happened with you?
Kind of exactly that. Like, it's just you're attacking something with everything you got, and then you're like, okay, now what? And you evaluate where you're at with things. And I'd received a phone call that winter after I stopped playing, and coaching staff that I played for asked me to come back and start coaching, and I did that. And
the coaching staff in Joliet?
No, in New Mexico.
In New Mexico. Oh, at the college level. Were you already in that mindset, or did coaches know, even when you were a player, this guy knows the game? What was it about you, do you think, that they thought would make a good coach?
From my perspective, I knew that I did everything I could to get better, and like the conversations that I had and the work that I put in, they knew that I was capable of going through that, and I helped do what I could for my teammates at that time, and just being able to go through that process and handle it well.
You go back to New Mexico State, you're not much older than the athletes there. You had just pretty much graduated.
24.
Like 24. Yeah. Tell me what kind of coaching you were doing, and what was that relationship like for you to suddenly be on the coaching end of things when you're probably coaching guys you played ball with?
Yeah, there was 2 guys on that club that were freshmen. Actually, one was a freshman All-American that was on that club that first year. But yeah, I was working with the hitters. I was just doing whatever they needed me to do. Wherever I needed to be, that's where I was. And that's the kind of role that you fill when you start get into coaching, is you do what's ever required of you, and you help the players the best you possibly can.
Did you move up in the ranks at New Mexico State, or did you get recruited elsewhere? Yeah,
I continued to coach there. I worked as a hitting coach and coached third for a few years, and I recruited as well. And then it was good. It was good. We had some good clubs. A couple of guys got drafted, and then my wife got a job in North Carolina, and we ended up moving out to North Carolina while I was still going to school. At that time, I was going to school as well. So part of me going back to coach there, I was able to continue to go to school.
What were you majoring in, and what did you see yourself doing?
I spent a lot of time outdoors. I initially went back to school, and I got a master's degree in biology, and thought maybe I might be a wildlife biologist or something like that. So it was something I enjoyed. So on that side of it, I was going to school for that, but then I was also coaching. So it was like, okay, if I'm going to be outdoors, I'm going to be outdoors doing something I love. And once I figured out that it was best for me to coach and help as many people as I possibly could, then that's the direction that I decided to go. And I went back to school after I finished my master's degree and got my PhD in education. So
you got a PhD in education. Wow. And you could do a lot with that. You could teach at a university level.
Yeah, the PhD's, like, the title's a good thing, but it's just more about learning how people learn the best, and you can help them. That's it. And I was like, that's what I'm going to be doing. So I need to figure out how I can best help them in whatever mode. And so that's the route I went.
You moved to North Carolina. Were you active in coaching baseball at that time? You were?
Yeah, so I had all my coursework done, and then I was just doing research hours. And when we moved out here, my wife finished her doctorate, and then she took a postdoc at UNC. So she's working at UNC, and I was doing research hours. And I actually, when we moved, I got on with a junior college out here and met some really good people. And I was like, hey, like, if I can help anyway, I'll help. I'm going to be here. And I was trying to set up a couple studies to do. And I did a study with one of those clubs, and then with the school I was at. And then the summer, I did another study and then finished my research hours and then graduated.
How did the Asheville Tourists managerial job, because you weren't managing in baseball, right?
No, I had some pretty decent connects within pro ball just throughout the years, people that I've met and talked to. And I applied for a couple different positions and met with a couple organizations after I graduated, and just went after it as it came to me, and it worked out how it was supposed to. I met with someone at the winter meetings, and just sat down and talked and told them this is who I am and this is how I feel like I can help the org, and they felt like it was a fit. So I started as a fourth coach. So on a staff, there's usually like 4 main coaching members on the staff. You got the manager, pitching coach, hitting coach, and then a development coach or a fourth coach or whatever role, however they want to title it.
And that's how you started with the Tourist.
Yeah, but we were within our organization, within the Houston Astros organization, we were in Bowie's Creek, North Carolina. So it's southeast of Raleigh.
Gotcha. So you came up through the Astros more so than necessarily the Asheville Tourists. That's interesting. So I imagine at that point you thought, wow, okay, maybe this is a career path for me. You went through all this educational growth, got your master's, your PhD. How did you find yourself as a coach in a way that you maybe didn't as a player?
You're challenged in different ways. Like, you're challenged to a point where every single day that there's things that come up that you have to work through and you have to respond to, and you make sure that the people around you have the things that they need, and you're providing the best atmosphere that you possibly can. And you stay the same guy, pretty much the same guy all the time, where they know exactly what everybody around you knows what they're going to get from you every single day. And that's part of, I think, a good organizational foundation is the people that are there. There's not a lot of highs and lows. You're pretty steady on the things that you do day in, day out, and the energy that you bring. And if people are going through tough times, they know at least that there's going to be a few people there that are going to be pushing for you to be better, and you're going to get the same thing and the same support every single day.
You seem like you just naturally soak up and learn from what's around you, that you're really good at observing the professional environment around you, what other coaches are doing. You start out as a developmental coach.
Yeah.
That shows quite a rise, just even going from being a developmental coach. Where is Buies Creek? I don't know where that is.
So that's where Campbell University's at.
Okay.
They've actually developed a really good baseball team there. After I left Buies, I went to Fayetteville opened up the club there our first year.
You opened up the club there. Were you the manager?
Yes.
That was your first managerial stint.
Correct.
What was that like for you?
It was great. Yeah, it was great. The city and the veteran support and the active military members there in the community, like, it was great to put something in that city that they could come and we could show support for them and give them something to do on their time when they're not really working and getting after it all the time.
Fayetteville, you said there's a military base there, very different community than Asheville.
Correct.
When did you arrive in Asheville?
I came out 3 years ago.
And you'd already been a manager at Fayetteville. You started the team there. What did you learn in that position, like that, this is what managers here have to do in response to what's going on at the major league level and following what they're telling me, versus how much freedom are they counting on me to do in terms of shaping this team? How much is dictated from above, and how much independence do you have as a manager?
The most important thing that we're doing is we're developing guys to become big leaguers. So, like, whatever it's going to take to help them win at the major league level, those processes that they go through, we have to keep that at the forefront of what we're doing. We need to make sure that they can go to the big leagues, have success, go through the things that they go through in the big leagues, and win baseball games and win World Series titles. That's what we're doing. Through that process, you're developing men, you're shaping their lives, and you're doing everything you possibly can for them, for their lives and their future and their families. So from the front of, okay, what you said, freedoms do you have?
Maybe I'm phrasing that wrong. Not freedoms, but I imagine a lot comes down from the top about what they're wanting from certain players and what they want to see happen, whether it's this person in the starting rotation, we want to see this person developed as a reliever. Yeah. And what are they counting on you to do that isn't dictated from above?
Day to day, like, there'll be things that come up. Like, certain guys have to get a certain amount of playing time. I think of it, though, too, everybody's here, and they all have special talents, and they all have very unique characteristics that would potentially continue to move them to the big league level and get them there. So from my perspective, whether or not they were a first rounder or a 20th rounder, they still have a shot to get there. And you're never going to write a guy off. You're never going to say, okay, he was the 20th rounder, he was a first rounder. You're going to continue to help everybody get to the big leagues, and that's what you're going to do.
Do the Astros brass say, we want this person batting third, we want this person batting fourth? Do they chart out for you, this is what the batting order is going to be, this is what the pitching rotation is going to be?
Yeah, so like from that perspective, there's a rotation that we need to follow to just help them get the most innings and put them in positions to be challenged and have success. And so, yes, they're from a pitching perspective, like, that's part of it is, there's a rotation that's set, that's dictated by some of the pitching coordinators and the pitching coaches within the org and the front office, and they say, but it all makes sense. Like, it all aligns. It's okay, this is a top prospect. He needs to pitch a lot of innings, and he needs to pitch a lot of innings, and we need to manage his workload. So, like, finding those balances between that so they can get the innings that they need to get and be challenged and work on pitch shape and work on everything that will happen. From a position player side, there are obviously, like, priority guys that this guy needs to get as many at-bats as he possibly can. And so from that perspective, yes, which only makes sense, right? As an organization, you invest some money into a human, and you want that guy to be the best person that he can be within the organization. So you put him in the forefront of all the challenges you possibly can. He might get the most at bats out of anyone the entire year, but that's part of it, and you trust in that guy to continue to work through it. But yeah, there are things like that only make sense, and for those people that are on that side of it, it just makes sense.
How much are they counting on you and your coaches here in Asheville to give feedback on what you're seeing on the field? Numbers, it's such a data-driven game.
Yeah, it's all the time.
It is, but you see things happening. You know where people's heads are at in a way that may not be in the numbers. Do the Astros depend on you and your staff to say, here's what I'm seeing behind the scenes?
Yeah, it's always going to be a game of you have to go and you have to watch those people play and how they respond to situations and how they are actually performing. Doesn't always come across in the numbers. And
right.
So, yeah, I'm always asked about those things. There's always front office staff coming in, which is a good thing, and we have those conversations, and they get a little visual snippet of what those guys go through if they're here for a series. But the conversations that I can have and can help some of those decisions be made on whether or not those guys are going to get promoted to the next level, and it's good. I think that's one thing that we as an organization, we're very good at, is just communicating through all those lines, whether we're from sports medicine to athletic training to the front office to pitching, hitting, catching, base running, infield defense, outfield defense, like all the coordinators at different managerial levels through all the different affiliates. Like, we all communicate well, and it's a big organization, but we do a good job of kind of streamlining all those avenues for communication. We can talk about those things.
You already know the Overlook brings you stories and voices from across the city. Now we also bring you First Look. It's a new daily newsletter that brings you the news headlines from all over Asheville. You can scan it at a glance and see if there's something you've missed or just need to know more about. No ads disguised as stories, just the headlines in a quick, easy read. Get the First Look newsletter for free at podavl.com/newsletter. Once the season starts, it's relentless. You guys are playing virtually every day. You don't have nary a day off. Once spring training is over, the coaching has to happen in-game, right? There isn't a lot of time to work on fundamentals and other development. Am I right in reading it that way?
Yes and no. You start early in the spring, transitioning from February into March, and once you leave spring training, you have quite a bit of time at your affiliate, and you're quite a bit of time throughout the day. I think we do a good job of scheduling the day out where we can work on some of those fundamentals. You work on the things that you need to work on earlier in the day, and then you play a baseball game. And then they go out. You work on the things you need to work on, then you go out and perform.
Is that what happens also at the big league level? Do they do the same thing?
It's similar.
Just seems like the schedule gives a little more air.
Yeah, I'm at the field from 10 to 11 o'clock every night, 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. every night.
Oh my God, that's crazy. That's again, relentless schedule. One of the things I was curious about is, at this level, you have players coming in, coming out all the time, right? You have people brought up to AA or maybe even AAA from here, or they get brought down to low A. How important or how difficult is it to maintain team cohesion and chemistry when everybody's individually looking for that shot up, number one, and B, you have such movement happening? Is it a difficult thing to have team cohesion?
It's not difficult in a sense that within the organization, like, guys know who each other are, and so if you're moving somewhere else, and like I said earlier in this conversation, like the consistency that you're getting from the different staffs, whatever affiliate you go to, what's expected of you from a professional level, and then on the development side is consistent. And then the guys that you go and whatever affiliate you're at least you know some of those guys. And so, like, going into another clubhouse, obviously I haven't done it as a player, but with players going back and forth. We haven't had any reserve or any like setback where guys are like, hey, this is a way different environment. I'm having trouble with this because you're playing baseball. You're with a bunch of good dudes. You're all trying to get better. You're all trying to win, and you're all in it for the same thing. And as long as those guys are supportive and on the same path as you are, you're in a pretty good spot.
I would think that some of the things that you're having to do, you're playing counselor in some ways as well, right? You have players at a very young, vulnerable age who have had a lot of affirmation by even getting to this level, number one.
Yeah.
The challenge is everyone's aware of who's above them in the organization.
Yeah.
And then you deal with players who've been brought down from AA, and they're now trying to work their way back up. Tell me about the psychological element, the role you play and your staff plays in being supportive psychologically in that way.
You had mentioned that guys may be coming down from AA to single A. It usually doesn't happen that way. Very seldom it does. I think one reason that does not happen very often is because we try to make sure that guys are in a good state of mind and a good state of physical playing potential at that time to be able to go and have success there. And whether or not, if they move up, they're in a position where they need to be challenged. And so prior to doing that communication that you and I had mentioned earlier is really important to see if ultimately the front office is going to make some of those decisions on if it's time to move people. But the input that the staff members can have on, okay, this is what this guy's been going through, this is what he's been through up to this point, that kind of helps make those decisions on if that guy can handle that, where they get challenged a little bit more and the game's a little bit tougher. And you had also mentioned the more psychological aspect, counselor side. You're human and you're communicating with other humans, so you got to get on the same level with them and do what you can to help them through whatever they're going through. Yeah, every day you've got 30 players and everybody's different.
Yeah, and you said that it rarely happens where a AA player goes down to single A. Is that because if that were the case, they're probably just going to be out of baseball at that point? Is that the reason?
Not out, but it just doesn't make sense for them to move down. You're not helping that person unless they need specific help or whether they need to be on a development list or something like that. And we've done a good job as an organization. If there are guys in unique situations where they may need specific help with specific things, we get them that help, whether it's on the tool side, on game execution, or whatever they need. We've done a good job of putting guys in positions to help them.
When you were laying out early the things that you're responsible and your colleagues are responsible for as a coaching staff in terms of preparing players to move up, and you ran through a short list of things, and one of the last things you mentioned was preparing them to win games and win World Series. And I'm wondering, how important is it for your team to win games? You're trying to develop players and you want them to develop a winning mindset, but I imagine winning games, that's not high up on the priority list, or am I wrong about that?
You have to go through the things at the minor league levels that you're going to be challenged at the big league level. So if they have to do it at the minor league level and they need to be challenged and executed, and the result of that is losing a baseball game because you have to throw so many pitches that need to be executed, you have to face this specific guy and specific hitters need to get those at bats. It's just it's best for those guys to go through it at the minor league level. And once you've had those challenges at the minor league level and then you continue to have success at the minor league level, then you continue to get promoted and you've been challenged and you've been to a point where you're developing a competitive nature that these guys have to be able to compete. And I think that's what the essence of winning is about, is you've gone through a process that you've competed and you've put in the work in. And when the time comes when you have had those small successes and you've continued to compete on a day in, day out basis, whether or not the scoreboard at the minor league level says a win or a loss, you know that the guys have done the things that they need to do in that day to compete and win their little battles. And at the end of the day, if all your guys are having those little battles that they need to have and winning on a day-to-day basis, you're going to win a lot of baseball games.
Are you saying that there are situations that come up in games sometimes that strategically you might do option A,
yes,
but developmentally
yes,
you're doing option B?
Yes.
That's really interesting. I don't know that people really think about that. Talk about the team this year and who are some players who were rocking it here and have moved up already, and you've had to say goodbye in a good way.
Yeah.
Tell me about some players.
Zach DeCenzo's one. He's a guy that came into our org, corner infielder and potential outfielder. Like, he's real special bat. He can really hit. He's tearing it up in Double-A right now. Drew Gilbert, he came through. He's first rounder, extreme competitor, super toolsy guy, just really unique character, great clubhouse guy. He moved up. He's outfielder. We had a couple pitchers to go up. One guy went in last night and closed out the Double-A game. And it's cool to see, like, some of those, like, little things that they worked on right before they went up and, like, them having success. Like Cole McDonald, he has a nasty cutter now. He was like a 2-pitch guy, but he developed a cutter, and it's a third devastating pitch. And so it's like he goes up to Double-A and, like, he comes in a closing role last night and just shoves. So it's awesome.
When a player does get promoted, is there a little celebration that happens on the team, like in the clubhouse?
Oh, yeah, and I do it. There's some guys that I'll figure out a plan for them, and I'll try to put their minds on a different track. And so it basically just surprises them. So whether I come up with something wild or not, sometimes it's like in the guys that have really gone through it, and it's best for them to do it with the whole club in the middle of the clubhouse, more like a team meeting. But more often than not, it's like behind closed doors with trying to take their mind on a different track and then letting them know that, hey, like, you're getting promoted. It's fun to put them on an emotional roller coaster like that, and because they remember it, and it's just fun.
That's really
fun.
cool. Is there anybody playing in Houston now who you've coached?
Yeah, there's a lot of guys up there. Yeah, Corey Jolks, Jake Myers, Yanni Diaz, Christian Javier.
Do you stay in touch with them?
Occasionally, yeah.
Let me ask you, we were talking about going up, moving up in the organization as an athlete. What's your goal as a manager? Do you have aspirations of moving up in this league through the minors and making it as a major league coach or manager?
Eventually, it'd be best for myself and my family, but within our org, I know the role that I'm serving right now is very important, and day in, day out, it's challenging, and it's challenging me, and it puts me in a spot where I'm developing myself, and so it's best for me. I'm 36, and I see those opportunities daily to just continue to get better, and if I get that opportunity at some point in my career, it would be great.
Our new First Look newsletter gives you just a handful of daily headlines from around the local media landscape to get you on your morning. We also have a weekly newsletter devoted to all things The Overlook that hits you every Friday. Both are free and available at podavl.com/newsletter. And please support the show by going to our Patreon page at patreon.com/theoverlookpodcast. I want to thank my guest today, Nate Shaver, manager of the Asheville Tourists baseball team. Today's conversation happened inside the BB Theater in downtown Asheville, which owners Susan and Giles Collard have been so gracious enough to open to me to record my interviews. Our theme music for The Overlook, Maker's Song, comes courtesy of the Asheville band The Resonant Rogues. The Overlook is a production of Podcast Asheville. New episodes are available every Monday through Thursday morning. I'm Matt Peiken, and I'll see you on the next episode of The Overlook.